Welcome to the July 2022 issue of Canola Quick Bytes, brought to you by the U.S. Canola Association. Capitol Hill. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reported that producers have received more than $4 billion to date through the Emergency Relief Program, representing about 67% of the $6 billion projected in its first phase. The USDA mailed pre-filled applications in late May to producers with crop insurance who suffered losses due to natural disasters in 2020 and 2021. Commodity and specialty crop producers have until July 22nd to complete applications. The USDA is implementing ERP in two phases, with the first utilizing existing claim data and the second intended to cover other producers and fill in gaps. The USDA reminds farmers who have not yet completed their crop acreage reports to do so before July 15th with their local Farm Service Agency office. The reports will help farmers become eligible for many FSA programs, including disaster assistance. Filing acreage reports, including failed and prevented planted acres, can prevent the loss of program benefits. The House Appropriations Committee passed its draft fiscal year 2023 Agriculture Appropriations Bill, which funds agencies and programs within the USDA and U.S. Food and Drug Administration. For fiscal year 2023, the bill provides $27.2 billion, an increase of $2.1 billion, or 8%, above fiscal year 2022. Notably, the bill provides nearly $3.6 billion for agricultural research programs, including the Agricultural Research Service, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and highest ever level for Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, USDA's flagship competitive research program. The legislation also invests over $560 million for the expansion of broadband service to enhance rural development, including $450 million for the Reconnect program. This is in addition to the $2 billion broadband investment in the recently enacted infrastructure package. The White House Office of Management and Budget released an updated regulatory agenda for the coming months, which pegs September for the final rule on the canola renewable diesel renewable fuel standard pathways. The U.S. Canola Association submitted comments and looks forward to a final rule that approves canola renewable diesel for RFS eligibility. On June 3rd, the Environmental Protection Agency finalized RFS volumes and rules for 2021 and 2022, as well as reset volumes and standards for 2020. The EPA slightly increased biomass-based diesel volumes for 2022 after holding them level from 2020 to 2021. The biomass-based diesel industry welcomed the final rule as a positive step towards addressing high fuel prices and shortages. A recent study from the World Agricultural Economic and Environmental Service, sponsored by Clean Fuels Alliance America, formerly the National Biodiesel Board, shows that U.S. production of biodiesel and renewable diesel is an essential addition to fuel supplies and lowers the price of diesel fuel by 4%. Researchers at the U.S. Department of Energy's Argonne National Laboratory released an updated analysis of greenhouse gas emissions for biodiesel and renewable diesel production from various feedstocks, including canola. Overall, the analysis reinforces the emission benefits of these biofuels when replacing petroleum diesel. This updated analysis finds that biodiesel and renewable diesel can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 64 to 86% relative to petroleum diesel. Notably, it finds biofuels produced from tallow and used cooking oils are lower than previous estimates. Canola fares better than most feedstocks. The California Air Resources Board, or CARB, is evaluating scenarios for achieving economy-wide carbon neutrality by 2035 and 2045. The one recommended by CARB would maintain an important role for biofuels rather than full electrification. CARB's modeling assumes at least 2.4 billion gallons per year of biomass-based diesel being produced in or imported into California starting in 2025 and remaining through 2045. This represents a doubling of current consumption rates. Clean Fuels Alliance America submitted joint comments with the California Advanced Biofuels Alliance supporting CARB's move away from draconian alternatives. Crop protection products are facing challenges on several fronts. This month, the Supreme Court declined to hear industry appeals of two lower court rulings, Hardeman and Pilliod cases, against glyphosate. Meanwhile, juries in Missouri and Oregon voted in favor of Bayer. There have now been 7 jury verdicts, 3 for plaintiffs, and the last 4 consecutive verdicts in Bayer's favor. Non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, are also challenging the EPA's interim registration decision on glyphosate. In January 2020, as part of its routine registration review of glyphosate, the EPA published its interim favorable decision. In March 2020, a group of NGOs filed petitions with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit challenging the EPA's decision. On June 17th, the court issued a split ruling on the NGO's petition. Most notably, it vacated the human health portion of the EPA's interim determination and remanded it back for further analysis and explanation that glyphosate is safe for use and not carcinogenic. Current glyphosate product registrations remain in place, and growers can continue to use the products based on label instructions. On June 16th, the EPA released 3 final biological evaluations for the neonicotinoid insecticides clothianine, imidacloprid, and thiamethoxam. These products are currently undergoing routine registration review by the EPA. As part of the review, endangered species assessments are being conducted. Biological evaluations are the first step in the endangered species assessment process, and the EPA will now consult with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries Service to decide if additional protective measures are needed. Registrants, grower groups, and others will continue to have opportunities to participate in this process to help ensure any new measures proposed by the EPA are fully informed based on sound science and actual use. Biological evaluations are based on highly conservative assumptions and do not conclude that current uses of these insecticides have impacted any endangered species. Instead, and as an example of the highly conservative nature of the evaluations, the EPA's method includes the highest labeled use rates and maximum usage footprints allowed based on current labels. In the majority of instances, this results in endangered species receiving, quote, may affect determinations, but the products are still approved for use. None are taken off the market and therefore do not impact sales. This process will continue through 2025 and could trigger additional protective measures on existing labels. The USDA joined 14 agricultural groups on comments submitted to the USDA about the benefits and potential of biotechnology, urging continued efforts to streamline regulatory barriers that are stifling innovation. Agronomy. The USDA National Agricultural Statistics Service June 30th acreage report pegged canola planted acres at slightly more than 1.9 million acres, down 194,000 acres or 9% from 2021. However, the NASS stated that excessive rainfall had delayed planting at the time of the survey, leaving a portion of acres still to be planted in the northern plains, and it will collect updated information on 2022 acres planted to canola and other crops in the region. If the newly collected data justify any changes, the USDA will publish updated acreage estimates in its crop production report to be released on August 12th. Biodiesel magazine looked at the growing demand and acreage of other mustard family crops, including covercross, camelina, and carinata. Is it worth spraying sclerotinia after a drought? Chris Mansour, agronomy specialist and sclerotinia lead with Canola Council of Canada, says you need to consider the environment, including the microclimate. North Dakota State University, Northern Canola Growers Association, and Minnesota Canola Council have a sclerotinia risk and canola forecast program running throughout July with 1. A map that uses weather information to estimate risk of disease development throughout the canola growing area, and 2. A risk calculator that combines cultural practice information and field history of sclerotinia with weather information from the nearest in-dawn station. Nutrition. Canola isn't just food for people. Canola meal is great for livestock and farmed fish. That's because it has an excellent amino acid profile and it's rich in vitamins and essential minerals. Studies have also shown that feeding cows canola meal can increase their milk production by up to 1 liter per day. Other country news. The food versus fuel debate is resurfacing in Europe, and this is bad news for canola growers in Australia and Canada. Nick Goddard, executive officer of the Australian Oilseeds Federation, believes that the demand for biodiesel will drop off as more Europeans opt for electric vehicles. However, there is new demand for maritime and aviation vehicles that may offset losses. 2 semi-trucks in Alberta caught fire, setting one rig's canola load on fire. One truck was carrying canola meal and the other canola oil, but it is unclear how much product was lost in the fire. Luckily, no one was injured. Australian canola farmers are replacing barley crops with canola as experts expect acres to soar by 21% this year, or nearly 9 million acres. The increase is due to the confluence of great prices and seeding conditions at the time of planting and could pose some stiff competition to Canadian growers. Wet weather in the Canadian prairies could cause canola yields to continue to drop. Canola is already expected to drop 7% this year, and oilseed crops are critical with increased demand from countries like China. Latest industry news. Canola oil will take to the skies. The Australian Sustainable Aviation Fuel Partnership was signed into effect by Qantas Group and Airbus. The airline companies plan to invest up to $200 million to accelerate the establishment of a sustainable aviation fuel industry in Australia. The partnership, which will initially run for 5 years starting in 2022, will invest in locally developed and produced aviation fuel and feedstock initiatives. Following planting at its Minnesota Canola Production Center, the Minnesota Canola Council will host its 2022 Crop Field Day and Golf Scramble on Wednesday, July 20th in Roseau as of 9:45 a.m. The event will feature a variety of canola trials. The Minnesota Canola Council will also host a Canola Field Day on Tuesday, July 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. on the Steve Roedke Farm near Hawley. Participants will enjoy a crop walk followed by presentations on the farm. About the USCA. The U.S. Canola Association will hold a special in-person meeting in Minot, North Dakota, July 7th to 8th, and its autumn board meeting in Scottsdale, Arizona, November 9th through the 11th. More on uscanola.com. Get social with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Want to promote your products or services to canola producers and industry members? Visit our advertising pages to find specs, deadlines, and rates to advertise in this podcast, in our monthly e-newsletter, or on uscanola.com.